Good Evening Bahamas coming up tonight.
The PLP says farewell to former National Security Minister Dr. Nottage.
Yellow Elder residents get greeted at their front door by police officers.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news, and thanks for joining us. I'm Paige McCartney. Topping news tonight, former Progressive Liberal Party MP Dr. Nottage returned to party headquarters for the final time last night before he's laid to rest on Friday. Tears flowed freely as party leaders and supporters remembered and celebrated the life of one of their own. Kyle Joaquin reports.
But BJ, love you, my brother. You've always made me proud.
From sports to politics, Perry Christie and Dr. Nottage had a close bond that spanned decades. With a pained expression, the former Prime Minister stood before Nottage's casket last night during a somber service held to honor the former National Security Minister's memory at PLP headquarters. Christie's wife, Bernadette, clung to her husband as she viewed the body of their family friend. The former party leader got personal, speaking of the night he went to visit Nottage in Doctor's Hospital.
He said something to me that I will never, ever, ever forget. He said, "It's a pity that I'm the first." I said, "First what?" Never. I've been thinking about it, the first of me and him, the first of the cabinet. That's what he said.
Christie was one of many senior party members paying tribute to Dr. Nottage for his decades of service to the party and the country. Tears flowed as one by one people walked by Nottage's casket, which was adorned with yellow roses. And even as he shared happy and fond memories of Nottage, often making people laugh, South Andros MP Picewell Forbes broke down.
He did those big jaw like this and he hung his head down. So for me, this is a funny moment.
But it was still a night of celebration of a life well lived.
And I would hope that as a gesture of good faith and as a gesture of respect for a Bahamian who dedicated his life to our country, that this new government would see fit to name that newly constructed building that is next to the Paul Hartley building on Thompson Boulevard, that is supposed to house the Ministry of National Security, that they would name that in his honor. I hope that they're big enough to do so.
We never knew how ill Dr. Nottage was. And in retrospect, I believe we can all see that he operated with a sense of urgency and commitment of one who wanted to redeem the time, as we are admonished in Ephesians 5:16.
Nottage has touched the lives of many, from the babies he delivered to his younger colleagues in cabinet.
I consider it an honor that my name somehow will be wrapped up in the history of Bernard Nottage, to say that at one point in time, I served in the House of Assembly and I served in cabinet with him. I am proud of that.
And so I petition to us tonight in this hall, Prime Minister, leader, stalwarts, family, parliamentarians, past, present, future, that B.J. Nottage must be, should be, by any account, nominated, petitioned to be a hero of the Bahamas.
For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Well, PLP Chairman Bradley Roberts also sharing fond memories of Dr. Bernard Nottage, telling party supporters last night that he feels the country's crime problem impacted the former National Security Minister's health.
It was a mammoth task, and BJ immersed himself in this assignment with every fiber of his being. We all know it was a very complicated undertaking without any quick fixes. BJ utilized all his trainees and expertise, together with those of his advisors, and he came up with plans to address this long-standing challenge. In my opinion, the crime challenge impacted BJ's health.
Roberts, who's a former member of Parliament for Baines and Grandstown, says he was happy to pass the baton to Nottage as the party's candidate for that constituency.
I was delighted that Baintown branch of our party had almost unanimously endorsed BJ when I decided after 25 years not to seek re-election. Despite BJ's illness, his deep love for the people of Bain and Grandstown drove him to seek re-election. But God, in his wisdom, decided to call him home to rest from his labor and to enjoy the rewards of heaven.
In other news, 2 years after Hurricane Joaquin caught Bahamians by surprise, causing widespread devastation in the southern islands, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis revealed today that government intends to launch a technologically advanced alert system that would alert Bahamians that disaster is coming.
To enhance hurricane preparedness, we will launch a pilot project called Alert Bahamas. This is a national emergency warning system that will provide national alerts through email and text messages.
In 2015, the government and the National Emergency Management Agency were heavily criticized for not adequately warning residents of the southern Bahamas about Joaquin quickly enough and for not moving more quickly to mobilize recovery efforts. While addressing the International Telecommunications Union's Global Symposium for Regulators this afternoon, Minnis said street lights would be used to alert residents of all islands.
Can you imagine, with the technology available today, if a hurricane or a catastrophic event is passing through our country, a warning system being utilized using the street lighting system that would continue to flash during warning the public that disasters are coming. So once our nationals recognize that there's repeated and continuous flashing throughout our countries, that would serve as a warning.
While it may be too early to call the government out on its campaign promise to introduce a referendum for electoral issues such as term limits for prime ministers, non-performing members of parliament, and independent constituencies and electoral commissions, that's according to members of civil society who say there are steps that can be taken before taking a vote to the people. Christina McNeil tells us more.
Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis has yet to speak to the timeline for that referendum on electoral issues, but he is expected to address some of those promises he and the FNM made before the general election during his first national address next week. But according to Executive Director of the Organization for Responsible Governance, Matt Aubrey, there are steps that should be taken before another referendum is thrust upon the Bahamian people.
I think there's a number of things that could be done in advance. I mean, to build up to a referendum, when we've seen this in our past in the Bahamas, is you want to do so with the appropriate lead up and public consultation and information. And when you think about a system by which we could recall all our MPs, if it comes up to simply being able to get names of registered voters on a list, and we haven't done anything beforehand, you're going to have efforts that are just going to happen continually about trying to get one person out of a district, out of a constituency, and flip it to the other side. Because the truth is, you don't want to get there. The point is, after all the effort and time and things that go through in the midst of an election, you really want that people get in, can do a good job, that governance will be effective, and that the issues that meet a constituency's needs will be instituted. You kind of don't want to start with the fact, well, when they mess up. Let's start with how do we make sure they don't mess up.
Aubrey says one step would be to evaluate the list of proposed electoral reforms that civil society presented to government before the general election.
Of those, they not only speak to a system whereby a failing MP could be recalled, and they use some of the examples that you see in the UK and other places that are Commonwealth countries, and so it would be good to start and look there and enlist them in the development of that process.
When it comes to an independent boundaries commission, Aubrey says that too should be given a closer look before bringing it to a referendum.
A boundary commission should line up pretty closely with when we do a census, so that it drives every 10 years, and so it can move away from being a tool for gerrymandering and be used to appropriately develop what kind of systems of governance would need to be in place to meet the needs of a particular community with very current level data.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina McNeil.
Well, still to come on Our News, what prompted a police visit to Yellow Elder Gardens? Find out after this break. You're watching Our News.